In 2013, the 8th generation of home consoles launched. To quote The Who, it was very much meet the new boss, same as the old boss. At least on a surface level. But on the PlayStation side, even though they'd landed sucker punch after sucker punch on Xbox due to their DRM stance, backwards compatibility didn't exist. Anyone with a slight amount of knowledge about the 7th generation of consoles will realise that scenario came down to the cell processor in the PS3, an architecture that many developers say was difficult to build for, and even now, never maxed out. It was fantastically powerful, but its own complexities held even first-party developers back from achieving what it was fully capable of. And so for the 8th generation, Sony adopted a more standardized processor to let the developers run as wild as the hardware would let them. This, however, meant that PS3 games could not be played on the 8th generation consoles, either the PS4 or the PS4 Pro. And that situation would also then carry forward to the 9th generation and the PlayStation 5. Sony, though, told us not to worry. Something was in the works that would allow us to play backwards compatible games. And in July 2014, they unleashed PlayStation Now upon the world. This new service would allow you to stream video games directly to your console, Vita, TV, PC, or even Blu-ray player, and you could enjoy them wherever you had an internet connection, with no need for downloads or updates. Similar to emerging video streaming services like LoveFilm, Amazon Prime TV, and Netflix. Allowing the service on Windows PCs and laptops also meant you had easier streaming and content creation for those who were cottoning on to the power of YouTube and Twitch. Unlike me. Also giving access on their own handheld, the PlayStation Vita, alongside those Windows devices, it meant that those travelling could play in their hotel rooms, trucks, tents, etc., while in rest stops, on business trips, or even on holiday. As time progressed, Sony quietly worked on the service, improving the streaming experience, the library, supported generations, resolution, and even setup and supported devices. So, after 7 years on the market, and 7 years of work, what does it look like in 2021, and is it worth the money? Welcome everybody, my name is Doragon, and this is my review of PlayStation Now in June 2021. So what is PS Now in 2021? PlayStation Now is Sony's PlayStation-centric video game streaming platform. It can be played on a PS4 console, Windows PC or laptop, or the latest console addition to the family, the PlayStation 5. For an annual fee of £49 outside of sales, you gain access on the aforementioned devices to a curated and rotating library. From the best first-party games like the God of War series, Gravity Rush and Infamous, to third-party titles like The Witcher 3, Slay the Spire and Marvel's Avengers. There is also a selection of PS2-era titles like Primal that have been touched up to look better on HD TVs, and the service also offers PS5 upgrades for those titles that have it if you download the game onto your PS5 system. Borderlands 3 as one example. For non-PS3 era games, there is also the option of downloading the titles onto your console if playing on a PS4 or 5. This is a huge departure from the competition, but does allow those in areas with less reliable internet to still utilise the PlayStation Now service. Saves are automatically stored in the PS Now cloud, allowing you to pick up immediately on other devices when switching from, say, console to PC, or even room to room. When streamed, games are displayed at up to 1080p and play at their original frame rates, so for most games that's 30 FPS. If downloaded, you get the full experience, including 4K resolution in games that support it, HDR and frame rate boosts if available. So, let's get into the nitty-gritty and review this long-standing service. Let's start with the streaming experience. Except, it's not just streaming this time. When talking about Stadia, xCloud or GeForce Now in the past, Internet access has always been a major factor. It's not a concern for someone like me with a 220 megabit connection for the house and a 160 megabit connection on 5G. But as covered previously, the average household speed in the UK is 22 megabits per second, shared between all occupants, and that can heavily hinder your video game streaming experience. PS Now gets around that problem by allowing downloads of the titles onto your console. This means you can set a game that you want to play to download overnight, and then pick it up the next day running on your hard drive, meaning your experience isn't impacted by your connection speed at all. Sure, there are drawbacks to the download side of things. Hard drive space and data caps being two of the bigger concerns if you play a lot. But they would also be concerns for traditional gaming or streaming only, so they aren't unique concerns to this scenario. What is unique would be the ability to play PS3 titles, as the system architecture just can't run those titles, even on PS5 or super high-end PCs. What this means is if you don't have a solid and fairly speedy internet connection, a good portion of the 700 plus game library isn't accessible to you as they are PS3 titles. So it's a balancing act of if the pros outweigh the cons for folk in such a scenario. For my money, and the experiences you can still have from the service, I'd say they probably do for the majority of people. The streamed experience itself is really good. PS Now is a bit slower to get a game started than Stadia, but much faster than xCloud and without the queues of GeForce Now. Once started, however, the gameplay is flawless. I first tested the service using Infamous 2, one of my all-time favourite superhero games and stories, and I tried it both natively on my PS3 and via PS Now on my PlayStation 5. And shockingly, there were differences. The PS5, even when displaying 1080p content, gives a crisper image. And even though my smart TV super samples all 1080p signals, the output of both of these services up to 4K, the signal from the PS5 just looked better. The PS5 has the added bonus of the DualSense controller over the DualShock 3, and even though Infamous doesn't use any of the DualSense's unique features, the comfort of the controller and better battery life allows for a longer and less painful play experience. The input and feel of the game was exactly the same on PS3 or streamed, with no input lag at all, and the streamed version loaded quicker. It's minor things that the streamed experience does better, and if you knew no better or weren't actively looking for these things, you probably wouldn't notice them. But, and this is quite important, going from playing 9th gen titles on the PS5 like Returnal, to playing 7th gen titles like Infamous 2 is made much less jarring by those minor quality of life upgrades that the streamed experience of PS Now gives you in these older titles, and they are very, very welcome in that scenario. The actual usage side of things then, it's easily on par with Stadia with ability and stability, but is elevated further by that option to download to console. The service is then stunted by only being available on PS4 or 5 and Windows PCs. When PS Now launched in 2014, it was available on so many devices. The PS3 and 4 console, the handheld PS Vita, smart TVs and smart Blu-ray players, and of course your Windows options too. All you needed was a DualShock 3 or 4 alongside the subscription to play on any of these devices. Over time, however, Sony's device support for the service has shrunk, eliminating 2 of their own consoles in the PS3 and Vita, removing all Blu-ray player support, and then slowly removing all smart TV support until it was all gone in 2017, leaving at that point only the PS4 or PC option. Despite improved resolutions and load times over the years, PS Now has been put out of reach of so many people simply from the dwindling amount of supported devices. If Sony really wants this service to grow and act as a competitor or answer to Xbox's game streaming option that includes Game Pass Ultimate, I personally feel that the scope of supported devices needs to be expanded. Even if it only brings Android and iOS devices into the fray, the amount of possible customers is suddenly billions more at that point. Like all of these streaming services, regardless of how good the streaming is or how little the service is available, people will use it if it has the games. And PlayStation Now has the games. As of the start of June 2021, xCloud, Stadia and Amazon's Luna all boast over 100 titles available in their advertising. PS Now, on the other hand, quietly sits there with over 700 titles available on the service. 100 sounds like a lot, and like it'll keep you going for a while, so 700 is just ridiculous. But that library has to have titles that appeal to everyone. So for every game that you like, you'll likely find another 7 to 10 that you don't, lowering the amount of games that you'll actually want to play on such a service to over 10 out of a library of 100 plus. PlayStation Now as a service has 54 games available beginning with the letter A. Of those 54, for me personally, there are 10 I would definitely try, and another 5 or so that I'd try in a release dry spell. Just going through alphabetically, and on the first letter of the alphabet, there's already more variety and total titles that I'd want to play than on the other 3 services. That huge quantity and variety of games that PlayStation have built up and curated over 7 years really pays off when you're looking for something to play as a gamer, and there are options jumping out of you all the way through the lists. From AAA blockbusters like Bloodborne, God of War 3, the entire Borderlands series and F1 2020, to indie titles like Slay the Spire, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, and I Am Bread, to all things in between. There is enough content and variety to suit everyone's gaming needs, regardless of the day. And with that rotating and expanding library, the options are only growing. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every game available is a 10 out of 10 or a must play. But that's kind of the beauty of the world. What I like might well be different to what you like. And thankfully, PlayStation Now has enough available games with a variety unlike any of the other services that I can confidently say that there is definitely something for everyone on PlayStation Now. Like all services of this nature though, there are of course drawbacks alongside the positives. Those positives are an exceptional model that appreciates that not everyone can access a connection for streaming only, a superb streamed experience if used, and a vast and varied library. We've then already covered one negative in the devices that this service is available on, a missed opportunity by Sony if you ask me, but are there any more? I'd say there are 2. First is the cost to entry. xCloud, Stadia and Luna don't need any specialist hardware to work, at least as far as we're aware with Luna, as it still isn't available in the UK. You simply download the app on whatever compatible device you are using, connect a controller, pay the monthly fee, and you're away. To be fair to Sony, that said same process is what you would follow for Windows devices and PS consoles. So if you are utilising the service on a desktop or console that you already own, it's as easy as all the others. But there are people like me out there, and the amount of us is growing. I don't own an Xbox or a PC, but xCloud allows me to play the Xbox games that I want to, and with my Xbox friends, via my phone or tablet. If I didn't own a PlayStation console alongside not owning a PC, of all the cloud streaming services, PS Now would be the only one that I couldn't experience. If I wanted to use it because of the stellar games, I'd have to go out and purchase either a console or PC, and then the subscription fee. Okay, a base PS4 can be picked up for around £100 mark currently. So to get fully up and going, it's £149 to play the first game on the service, compared to completely free to play Destiny 2 on Stadia via a phone that I already own, regardless of the specs. Say I wanted to play something else on Stadia. I pay £8.99 and get a slew of pro games to start playing. Only a £140.01 difference in startup cost there. You could argue that once you have the console, you've then got the option of purchasing games as well. But that's just adding even more expense to the equation, and the PS4 is not going to be supported with new releases for too much longer. The Windows side of entry is even steeper. Let's be honest here, if you're buying a laptop or PC, you're going to want it to do more than just play PlayStation Now games. At that point, media consumption, word processing, multitasking, and likely many other concerns come into the equation, pushing that price easily above the £300 mark for a basic laptop, and then you need the subscription atop it. If you are already a PlayStation customer and own a PS4 or 5, or own any form of Windows device, for the cost of the service, it would be stupid not to subscribe to PS Now. It just makes so much sense for people with the hardware already in hand, and is cheaper than any of the competitors in that scenario, with a larger and more varied library of games to boot. If, however, you don't have one of those options in hand, unless the PS exclusives are just that important to you that you're willing to purchase the hardware, PS Now just prices itself out of competition due to its reliance on specialist hardware. Second is availability. Now, to be fair here, all of the cloud streaming services covered on this channel have limited global availability. Luna currently being the harshest, only being available in North America. But bear in mind, PlayStation Now has been available for 7 years. If you live outside of Europe, Japan, or North America, you cannot get PS Now. That's 3 global regions in 7 years. By comparison, Stadia is available in Europe and North America, minus Hawaii, in the first 18 months of operation. Add one other region within the second year and it's available as far as PS Now is. xCloud is already available in Europe, the US, and South Korea, as many global regions as PS Now in 9 months of operation. With the worldwide penetration of the PS4 console and the demand for the PS5, I would have expected a far wider rollout of the service to take advantage of those existing customers. But as of June 2021, only 3 regions can get the service. After 7 years of operation, I personally find that scenario quite disappointing. Sony has put plenty of barriers in its own way with PlayStation Now. Lacking support, minimal global rollout, and requiring specialist hardware is just too many drawbacks 7 years after launch to be able to call it a success. But success and greatness don't always go hand in hand. Look at Sir Stirling Moss, widely regarded as one of the greatest Formula One racers of all time, but he never won a world championship. A great man, but not a successful one. As things are in this precise moment in time, PS Now feels very akin to Stirling Moss. Great, but not successful. It's not the final piece of the story for PS Now though. Sony knows how to build a damn good PlayStation app. Just look at the current one that launched alongside the PS5. Using this skill set, they could easily expand the available devices for the PS Now platform via a mobile application and alleviate 2 of the major issues in one go. They're also a massive tech firm and global company, so have the connections and facilities to step up a global rollout. It's about them actually wanting to, and then doing it. As it is though, PlayStation Now is a great service. It is the most versatile option, allowing those downloads while also being able to stream all of the games on compatible devices. The easy cross-save feature for wherever you access your PS Now library keeps you seamlessly gaming. It has the largest library right now that is growing at the same rate or faster than the competition. Its exclusive options are more numerous and more varied than any competitor, with higher critical and commercial success. It is the cheapest option for those with compatible hardware and offers many quality of life improvements to older titles that maybe aren't immediately noticeable, but are very welcome. Due to the hardware requirements, I cannot recommend PlayStation Now to just anyone. That entry cost to people without a Windows device or PlayStation console is just too high compared to all of the competition. The library and experience, though, are absolutely exceptional. Only Stadia stands alongside PS Now in terms of streamed quality and stability. But Sony have recognised the limitations of internet infrastructure and allowed that download option too. If you are someone who owns a Gen 8 or 9 PlayStation console, or have a working Windows PC, laptop or Surface device and want to utilize cloud gaming, PlayStation Now is by far the best option for someone like you. It gives you access to the most amount of games with what in my opinion are some of the highest quality games, while having the least amount of drawbacks to take into consideration. It is just those who are on the outside of the PlayStation ecosystem that need to weigh up the costs of entering PlayStation Now. But when you consider that the aim of cloud gaming is to cultivate the Netflix of video games, when you look at PS Now compared to all competitors, you suddenly realize that Sony and PlayStation are already there with PS Now. I would like to thank you all very much for tuning in. Please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. It helps the channel out massively. You can also hit the bell for notifications of when new content goes live. And tell me your experience with PS Now or takeaways from my review in the comments below. You can also follow me on the socials from the links in the description box. Otherwise, your viewership is very much appreciated. And until next time, guys, have yourselves a fantastic day and take care.